All right, hey guys. This is a video that I've been really wanting to do for a while, but I felt like I didn't have enough experience to really give a good overall view of chemo treatment and breast cancer. I've learned a whole heck of a lot. I've learned a lot in the past couple of days, in the past few weeks, about my particular type of breast cancer, and also wanted to and then about all these cancer treatments. I have one more chemo treatment, and that's next Wednesday, and I'm very, very excited about it. So I get the chemo treatments, and I just got to get through those symptoms, and then I can start building my body back up a little bit, and I'm very, very, very excited about it. It has given me a nice mental boost to know that I'm that close to being finished. And that is, I have done 16 total rounds of chemo. It's a lot. It's been very hard and disruptive on my body, and it has been very hard and disruptive on our family life. What I would like to say first is that if you are uncomfortable with me talking about my body parts or bodily functions, you need to turn this video off now. That's going to be talked about in a very blunt manner. I can be a very blunt person. I work very hard at not being a very blunt person, but when I was searching for things about chemo and how it would affect me and cancer and things like that, I really, really, really needed somebody to just tell me like it is. And I'm gonna do that. So if anybody's finding this stuff out and they are those types of people that need somebody to tell them like it is, then this video is for that person. If you are uncomfortable, again, with me talking about my body parts and uncomfortable with me talking about bodily fluids, you need to turn this off. So first of all, what I want to, I even made myself notes, guys. I have bullet points so I don't forget anything, because I've been thinking about this all summer long. So one of the first things I want to say is, or talk about, is why be so public with this. Not everybody's comfortable being this public with it. There are many factors. One factor is that I thought, well, we had already started this YouTube channel, and with zero clue that cancer was going to be in our life. We decided we wanted to continue the YouTube channel during this, and you can't hide this, guys. You can't hide it. You just can't. I could wear a hat, but you're gonna know what's going on. I've lost most of my eyebrows, but I still hang them. They're still hanging on, guys. And then I lost most of my eyelashes, but I still got them. And so I can't hide it. And if this is something that we wanted to keep doing, then I gotta be very real and honest about this stuff. And then the other thing is I'm young. I'm not even supposed to be getting my screenings for breast cancer at this point. I found my lump, and for all purposes, it felt like a cyst. Even my doctor said it felt like a cyst, but we needed to get it checked out anyways. And I'm glad we did. I'm glad that she was like, yeah, we need to do something about this one. And so we did. And breast cancer came into my life. I want to go over the fact that I have no family history of breast cancer. I have 0 gene mutations. I even had them check for extra gene mutations when I went to genetic therapy, and there were none whatsoever. I have 0 risk factors for breast cancer. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I'm not overweight. Well, I am now because of chemo, but I wasn't overweight, and I lived a very healthy and active lifestyle. And also, what's the other thing? So young, under 40, no risk factors, no family history, and then the no gene mutation. So I met none of the qualifications for breast cancer. Statistically speaking, and this is what I got in my gene therapy class, or the therapy session, is statistically speaking, because of that, I had less than a 1% chance of getting breast cancer. It's really, really low, but I have it. And I know I'm not the only one out there. When I was looking up people that were like me, it was really, 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 really hard to find. I could find older women. I could find young women who had the gene mutation. I found a lot of young women with the gene mutation that were having mastectomies prophylactically. There's a lot of them out there, but their stories didn't line up with mine. And if I can help someone else to feel less alone in all of this, then I'm going to tell my story. Because it's my story to tell. And I want young women to know, one, this can happen to you. You can do everything right. We do not use chemicals in our home. We eat organically. We raise and grow a whole heck of a lot of our food. We are very aware of what goes into our body. I'm more so than anyone else in my family. And I breastfed my babies. So why did this happen? Well, I have a theory on that, and one day I'll write a whole heck of a lot about that, but I'm not going to do that today. But it's just something that I have since learned, that you can do whatever you want to do. Healthy people still get cancer. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because you want to do what you can to prevent cancer. And I've done all of that. I'm not advocating to living recklessly at all. I think you still need to be a good steward of your body and what you put in your body. And as you learn things to help your body out, then you should implement those things. But what I have learned is unhealthy people get cancer and healthy people get cancer. Another reason that I went public with all of this is because I knew I was about to step into one of the hardest things that I've ever had to step into. I was about to walk a journey that I didn't want to walk, that scared the tar out of me. My biggest fear is leaving this earth early and leaving my children and my husband when they're still young. I know that wouldn't take God by surprise, and I know that He has everything planned out if that was the case. But my stepmother passed away from cancer on my little sister's 3rd birthday. That has been something that I carry with me. And I watched my dad have to raise my little sister on his own. And that's hard. And then our pastor, his wife passed away from cancer, and he had 4 little girls that he had to take care of. And all of those children grew up to be fantastic adults, and those dads did the very best that they could. But I'm also very aware that we are not promised tomorrow, but it is one of my biggest fears. And I'm about to step into my biggest fear, and knowing what cancer literally wants to kill you. Like that's its job, is to kill you. And it's a probability at some point in time for me, because it's likely that it will come back. And it may not. It absolutely may not. And that would be amazing. Who knows what research will show? Even if it does come back at that point in time, there may be something that they can do and be like, yep, take this pill, you're cured, magic pill. That would be great. But it will likely come back. And so I knew those things. And this is something that my entire family was going to walk through. I needed them to be able to talk to other people about this and be okay with it. I need to joke around about it. This is our family. We are not super serious people, despite the look on my face most of the time. And we joke around a lot, we laugh a lot, and we need to be able to do those things. And I need my children to talk to me about their fears and what they think, and ask questions and all of that stuff. And so that way their mind is put at ease. I needed my husband to confide in people if he needed to confide in people. And one of the saddest things during this time is that my husband's aunt passed away from breast cancer. And during all of my treatments, he would call her and he would talk to her because she fought a long battle for years with breast cancer. And she would walk him through thoughts or things that he had. And then she passed away just a few weeks ago. And that's been really difficult because now he sits and basically plays Sudoku. And during my chemo treatments, because he can't go back there with me because of this whole coronavirus thing. And but I needed him to be able to confide in people and to talk to people about stuff. So they need to talk to people. That's another reason why I have been public. But the most important thing is going into this and knowing that I was about to walk through the hardest thing is I'm a Christian. I believe in the person and work, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's the type of Christian that I am. And I fully believe that God gave other believers as a gift to one another. We are a body. People talk about the body of Christ, and the body of Christ is to work as one. We're not very good about it, obviously. There's so much friction going on in the church today, and the world is seeing it. And so, but we are designed to work as one, and where one member is weak, the other is strong, and they come in and they minister it. And you can see that in your local body, but it's not just your local church, it's the whole of Christians. We are to all work together. And I knew that I was about to walk through something very hard, and I knew that I had other believers out there, and so many of them out on Facebook, and so many of them out on YouTube or Instagram, and I needed prayer because I believe in the power of prayer. And I felt it so much going through the first 4 treatments, those first 2 drugs that I was on, because that brought me to my knees. And I knew that I needed the body of Christ to be praying for me, and I could feel it. And I was so blessed and humbled by that entire experience. And I'm still blessed and humbled for it because I know that there are people out there praying for me. If I'm having a rough time, I will put it out there. And guess what? People are praying for me. And I know people say, I wish I could do more for you. Pray for me. That is what I want. The gift cards are amazing. The meals are amazing and have helped us so much. Sending a card that just says, thinking about you and praying for you has been great. I have kept every single one of them. I'm really bad at thank you notes. So just letting you know, you probably won't receive one. So this is my blanket thank you. But just praying for me helps. Knowing that you're doing that and lifting me up and you don't even have to tell me. You don't have to tell me that you're praying for me. You don't have to tell me at all. I don't need to know that because I can feel the prayers. So that was another reason that I went public. There are a lot of different reasons, and those were the main reasons why I went very public with this. I do have a very weird relationship with the word healthy now because my doctors still call me healthy. And I'm like, no. Like I literally have a disease that wants to kill me. So this is kind of weird to even classify myself as healthy. But I understand what they're saying because I don't have any chronic diseases. I lived a healthy lifestyle beforehand. I ate well beforehand. I asked what I could do to change things. And they said nothing. They said, do not change anything because you're doing exactly what we would want you to do if we needed you to change your lifestyle. So that being said, I do live a very natural type lifestyle. I'm very into natural medicine. And I think that most things can be prevented or healed naturally. God's given us plenty of herbs to use, and not just the one that's in the current debate system. There's a whole lot of other herbs out there that can be used to keep your body healthy and strong, to prevent your diseases from coming in, to keep your immune system up, so that way you can minimize your risk factors for viruses and infections and even cancer and chronic autoimmune diseases that are just rampant nowadays. I fully believe in that kind of stuff. And I don't always think that the modern medical system is set up for the amount of sickness that we have going on in this world. So why would somebody who is naturally minded consider a very conventional therapy that is going to destroy my body? That's a very personal decision for a lot of people. And I really researched this before I even got the official diagnosis, because I needed to think clearly without a cancer diagnosis. I needed to not be scared. If there was a natural way that I could heal myself from cancer, then I would try it. But my type of cancer, if I tried to go the natural route, I have a 1.5 year life expectancy. That would have me dying before age 40. That would have me leaving my 4 children. That would have me leaving my husband, who has his own issues, to raise them by himself. And that to me was irresponsible, when I could go and do the conventional treatment and be guaranteed almost a 100% remission rate at the end of treatment. They don't call it remission anymore. They call it no evidence of disease. And that's even my prognosis. When I was talking to the surgeon, I said, "What's my prognosis?" And she said, "I am 100% confident that in February we will not find the disease in your body." Hello? Why? So why not? So why do something that your surgeon and your oncologist is very confident that you're going to be in remission from this? And then why try something that's all dependent upon me to heal myself from? Which is going to induce stress on my part and a whole heck of a lot of money, because natural therapies, guys, are not cheap, and insurance companies don't pay for them. So if you have cancer, and I'm really speaking to my more naturally minded friends who are, because a lot of you guys that are watching this are like, well, we would never choose that. We would always choose the conventional therapies. There is a struggle out there among naturally minded people on whether to choose the conventional therapy or to choose natural therapy. I'm all for doing natural when you can, but thank goodness for medicine. And and then other things that people have suggested to me, and I followed these people, guys, on social media before all of this. So you have Chris Beats Cancer. Chris Beats Cancer puts out a lot of good information, and there are some videos that he has of women who have healed themselves from breast cancer naturally. But you always have to keep in mind when you are watching that information that their cancer is not your cancer. Their body is not your body. Just like an autoimmune disease that's very tailored to the person's body, cancer is very tailored to your body. There's so many different types of cancer out there. And if you look at, and then people are telling me to, and so not advocating to not follow Chris Beats Cancer, I think it's a fantastic resource out there. I think he has a lot of good information, and he's a testimony that you can beat cancer. However, he did put out that, so other people following him are like, go on a vegan diet. I get the reasoning behind vegan diets because of the way that animals are conventionally raised with the hormones and the feed and the living conditions. I get that. I understand the whole why to go on the vegan diet. However, that's not the type of meat that we eat. That's not the type of dairy that we buy. So, or raise ourselves. So that didn't apply to me because I was confident in what I'm raising in my backyard. I'm confident in the farmers that I bought from to not have hormones in their food or inject their animals with hormones. So that didn't concern me. And if you look at Chris Beats Cancer's testimony, he had his the cancer surgically removed, and his doctor gave up on him because he didn't want to go through chemotherapy. I don't blame him. After going through chemotherapy, if you want to go through chemotherapy, if you're like, yeah, let's do this, I want to do this, you're absolutely crazy. So he didn't want to go through chemo, and I don't blame him. And so he healed everything naturally. He did go on a vegan diet, but if you look at his testimony, you have to read his testimony. He did not stay on a vegan diet because he lost too much weight and it was detrimental to his health. He had to supplement with lamb, and I'm pretty sure that he bought like pasture raised lamb, which is like the best lamb that you can buy. So and because he needed that protein, he needed that stuff in there. And he was doing what his body needed. Maybe not everybody needed to do that. But he did. He's a success story, and that's phenomenal. I love it. And there's a lot of success stories on there, but you have to keep in mind that their cancer is not your cancer and your body is not your body. Your support system is not the same as mine or his or anybody else's. So you have to think about it. Your income level is not the same as mine, his, or anyone else's. So you have to keep those things in mind when you are reading those things, and it's not a cure-all. Another thing that people suggested was Gerson's therapy, and I really, really looked into Gerson's therapy for a little bit, and I was just like, yeah, this is awesome, but it's expensive. You have to go away to these treatment facilities for this. Gerson's therapy cannot be done on your own. You can try, but you're not going to do it successfully, not the way that it needs to be done. But if you look on their website, and I printed out their whole handbook and read everything and stuff, and I'm like, this is super promising. What I read, they said, if your cancer is classified as aggressive, you do not have time to try to heal it naturally. This is coming from the therapy center, guys. So of course, don't try to heal it naturally. You don't have time. Some people's cancer are slow growing, and you may have time and you may feel comfortable doing it. You may have stage 0, stage 1, and it's not aggressive and it's just hanging out. And if you want to try to heal it naturally, then that's up to you to make that decision. And not everybody's comfortable with that. With breast cancer in particular, a lot of these things are highly successful. A lot of conventional therapies are highly successful. There are certain types of breast cancer that they still don't have a cure for. And that's one of those is metastatic breast cancer. There's no cure. And I hesitate to even say cure because there's no cure. Once you have cancer, you have cancer. And it may be dormant, but it's always going to try to find a way to come back. So Gerson's therapy was a no-go because my cancer is classified as aggressive. I had no time. They also said they did not advocate going on a vegan diet because being on a vegan diet, and chemotherapy at the same time. This is what it was saying. So not just a vegan diet, but vegan and chemotherapy, because you would overload your organs. Your kidneys and your liver are already functioning at a very high rate, working at a high rate to rid your body of the poison you are injecting in it. And when you eat a vegan diet, you are going to overload those two organs and you will end up in the hospital in organ failure. Don't want to do that. So what do I do now that I've made that decision to go ahead and do chemotherapy? What do I do on my part? And that's what I wanted to know. I'm ruining my body. So what do I do? Well, I did things that was going to support my organs. So I'm supporting my liver and supporting my kidneys. There is a saying that says, eat what ails you. I knew they needed to function highly. So I bought a very high quality supplement for liver, it's just meat or organs. So organ meats or grass-fed beef liver, grass-fed beef kidneys. Super high quality and confident in the company. And so that's what I did. I bought those supplements so that I could take those to support my liver function and support my kidney function, because those are the things that they're going to be testing later on. I'm going to get into a couple of blood work things here soon about other things that I did. But I also took an echinacea supplement because echinacea is really good at supporting your immune system. I chose not to do elderberry because there's some conflicting information about it. There is not with echinacea, so I felt comfortable doing that. I did take turmeric and then stopped it because I was having bleeding problems. There is some research out there that says that turmeric, if you're having bleeding problems, that it can cause you to bleed more. So I chose to stop the turmeric. That will be ramped up after chemo to keep inflammation down. But echinacea is just a generally safe herb. And so those were the two things that I really added to my diet. Oh, and a good probiotic, but that came a little bit later because I thought that I could do all that on my own and found out that I couldn't. So, but I discussed that with my doctor. You have to discuss that with your doctor on what they feel is safe for you to take. I discussed it with my doctor. He was totally fine with it, supported anything that I wanted to try on my own and to help my body through this process. And he kept telling me, he's like, you're going to be fine. You're going to, and he's like, this is not going to be so bad for you. So I'm going to get off of my little soapbox there. But let me reiterate with why I chose chemo. My cancer's aggressive. I had a very poor prognosis if I would try to heal it naturally. And I had a very good prognosis if I went the conventional route. Doctors don't make 100% confident claims if they aren't confident in what they have. My cancer, while aggressive, is the most treatable form of breast cancer out there. So that's why I chose it. If you are facing a cancer diagnosis, you need to understand your cancer and you need to understand the risk factors and doing something naturally and doing something conventionally. And that has to be a very personal decision that you make for yourself and your family. Guys, if I was in my 70s, like late 70s or whatever, I probably wouldn't even worry about it. I'd be like, peace out, guys. Give me something for the pain and we're good. But I'm not. I'm 38 years old, still young. And I still have a family that needs me. So I'm not going to take any risk to prove a point that natural medicine is superior to all. I'm just not going to do it. I'm a big believer now in integrative therapy, and that is using conventional therapy, medicine, and holistic medicine, and combining those two, because sometimes that's the type of therapy that you need for your body or for whatever disease or ailment you have. All right, I really want to get into my type of cancer. I know this video is already long and it's just going to be long and I don't even care at this point. So my type of breast cancer is invasive ductal carcinoma. It is, give me a second, because I didn't write that down. I wrote down my treatment protocol, but I didn't write down my exact diagnosis. So I have invasive ductal carcinoma. It is HER2. Oh, I did write it down. It's on the other side of my paper. So it's HER2 negative. It is ER/PR, so estrogen and progesterone positive. I have a Ki-67 score of 65%, and it is classified as grade 3. So invasive ductal carcinoma means that it is invasive. So there you go. It is in my mammary glands, my milk ducts. It is a lump. I found the lump. The lump is not normal. And at the end of this video, I'll show you exactly what that lump looked like. And it is great. And if you live in my area, you will never look at this place of business the same again. So yes, because it looks like a logo of a local business. So and then the estrogen and progesterone positive means that my cancer is hormone fed. So my hormones were imbalanced and they were feeding this cancer. This is what's going on. So my estrogen and progesterone that my body is producing is feeding the cancer, making it grow. HER2 is a measurement of a protein. And so the HER2 negative means that protein there is very low. HER2 stands for human epidermal growth factor receptor. And if it's a HER2 negative, there's a lot of treatment options open to you. So that's pretty good. All right, and my cancer is classified as grade 3. That means poorly differentiated cancer cells that look very different from normal cells. And it will grow and it will spread faster. There is no grade beyond grade 3, just so you know. It's grade 1, 2, 3. I'm grade 3. So I have an aggressive form of cancer. The Ki-67 score it's kind of the measurement of the aggressiveness also, just so you know. And that, I think, from what I understand now, helps them to kind of know what they need to do as far as treatment goes. So I have an aggressive form of cancer, but it's also the most treatable form of cancer. So that's what we were going for. And I have a prognosis that both of my doctors are very confident in, a good prognosis that both of my doctors are very confident in. So I got this diagnosis from the surgeon, and a couple of days later, I was scheduled to have my port put in. We all know Port Tricia. Port Tricia started out up here. She's moved down here. And she moves every week, and she's not a very nice person, and I'm ready for her to get out of me. But that still may be a while. It's possible that they may take her out when I have my surgery. It's possible that they may leave her in for a couple more years because chemo kind of ruins your veins. So, and I need to heal. I don't know. I haven't asked that question. I'll ask at my another appointment that I have coming up. So we did that, and then there is no reason that once your port is in that you cannot start chemo right away. So after I met with my surgeon, I met with my oncologist, and the next Monday, and I went in and I did, all the scans were before I met with the surgeon. I met with the surgeon first because typically there's a lot of people who have to have surgery first. I was not a candidate for surgery first because of the invasiveness of my cancer. Oh, and it was also, not only was it aggressive and was spreading, it was also in 3 lymph nodes. So 3 lymph nodes tested positive for cancer. As far as it going into my lymphatic system, that was something that they would have to see later on. The bone scan did not show up any, in the MRI and the CT, did not show up any cancer other than right here. It just lit up right here. Everywhere else was totally fine. So I caught it, we all caught it, and the doctors were on it quickly. If I had waited, I don't know where we would be. So don't wait if you find something, and push if you think that your doctors aren't treating you right. And you have the right to change doctors if you don't like your doctor. Just a side note there. What I've since learned about breast cancer is that there are several different main types of breast cancer. But within those types of breast cancer, there's a whole myriad of cancers that make your breast cancer very unique to your body. And the treatment protocol is going to be very unique to your type of cancer. My treatment protocol is chemo first. I'm not a surgery first patient, but it is chemo first to kill as much of the cancer as possible so that surgery is possible. And so chemo, surgery, radiation. That's my treatment protocol. After that is endocrine therapy. We are hoping maybe 5 years, but with my age, it will likely be 10 years because they need to shut down my hormones, which again causes its own set of problems, but they need to shut down my hormones to give me the best life expectancy as possible. When you look at statistics of cancer and things, my cancer gives, they rate them in 5-year increments. I have a near 100% 5-year survival rating doing this treatment protocol. That's really great. I think it's anywhere from I think it's like 77, in the 70% range for a 10-year survival rating. And that just means the likelihood of your cancer coming back. So I'm going to do what I can on my end to prevent myself from having cancer coming back. But I'm not going to live in fear, and I'm not going to live in a food prison. My cancer may come back, and we'll deal with that when that happens. But I'm not going to not live life because I'm so paranoid about it coming back. And I'm fully aware that it is always going to be in the back of my head. But I'm going to live life. My kids need me. My husband needs me. Life is not meant to be lived in fear, and it's not meant to be lived in a food prison, and it is not meant to be lived so legalistically just to make your cancer not come back, because the stress of that is detrimental to your own health, and stress lowers your immune system. And when your immune system's low, you get all sorts of things that are trying to find opportunity to grow, cancer being one of them, and they take hold. So I don't want to live like that. I will be making lifestyle changes. I will be making a few dietary changes that I will stick to. So that way I'm being a good steward of my body. And now with this new information and this new disease from me, there are certain things that I don't want a part of my life anymore. And those are the decisions that we're making. So 2 days after I got my port in, I was scheduled to start chemo. I could have started it that Friday, but I was ready to, I'm like, this is aggressive. I need to live. Let's do this. Didn't want to do it, scared out of my mind, but I'm like, let's go ahead. Like, there's no reason for me to prolong chemo if my port is in. So the first round of chemo were 2 drugs. Adriamycin, I think I'm saying that correctly, and Cytoxin. These 2 drugs were the drugs I was going to take, and I had 4 rounds every 2 weeks. Adriamycin is known as the Red Devil. There is a reason it is known as the Red Devil. The devil does not have very good connotations, and it is called the Red Devil because it is red. You can watch it going through the little thing into your body. And it has a very distinct smell. And I am now forever scarred for the smell of alcohol because they clean all the tubes with alcohol swabs right before they inject that drug. And so anytime I smell rubbing alcohol, I want to vomit, absolutely vomit, and it's horrible. But Adriamycin, the Red Devil, is the harshest chemo drug on the market. There is none worse. It comes with a lifetime dosage amount. I don't know what that is. I'm hoping that I haven't missed that. So I have a feeling that I might have already had the lifetime dosage. I didn't look that up because I didn't want to. There's certain information you just don't need to know, and you need to know that about yourself, especially if you are somebody who's prone to anxiety and panic attacks. I'm prone to anxiety. I haven't had a panic attack in 4 years, so we're good. So the Adriamycin, Red Devil, you will lose your hair. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to lose your hair. Cytoxin is pretty much, this has the same guarantee from what I understand. It's been a minute since I've gone over all, you know what, I could probably pull that out. I just pulled out my notes. My hospital gave me this, and this is really nice. So I'm going to look at my medication here. Breast cancer resources. I didn't file it all away like, you know, a good person would do. All right, here we go. Adriamycin, the Red Devil. And so that's what most people know it as. It took me a long time before I actually called it by its real name. Give me a second. I'll let you know the side effects. I love how it tells you, like, most people, you may not feel all of them, but you generally do. So you're going to lose hair on the scalp. And I did. All right, you're going to experience pain, nausea, and vomiting. I kind of wish that they would say, like, grade your nausea and vomiting, because that was something I hadn't experienced since being pregnant with my my oldest. The vomiting and the nausea with her was insane, and that was probably worse than what I had with her. So it'd be nice if they would grade that for you, because the drug I'm on now, Taxol, nausea is a side effect, but I haven't experienced nausea at all. And then low blood counts. So your white blood cells and your red blood cells will probably plummet. And that's just part of it. Other side effects are watery eyes, which I had. Mouth sores, which I had. Urine will appear red, which it did for the first 2 days. And then darkening of the nail beds. I didn't have that until I got onto Taxol, but it could have still been a side effect of the Adriamycin and the Cytoxin because it's still in your system when you move on to the next chemo drug. And then darkening of the skin if you have previous radiation treatments. Didn't have radiation yet, so that wasn't an issue. And then problems with fertility. It is supposed to put you in menopause, is what it's supposed to do. Before I get into that, let me talk about the other drug. So the other drug is Cytoxin. And I was given these at the same time. Oh, you know what? This is fun to know. So what it's used for and how it's supposed to be used. Give me a second to find that. Because if you're kind of a little bit of a nerd like me, like, this stuff is fascinating. And a side effect is heart problems. It can mess with your heart's pumping capability. I did have a little bit of a scare on that one because I was a little worried. So they always do an echo before you start treatment. So they have a baseline of what your heart is doing. And so they know if it could be chemo related or not, if you have any problems. Okay, so how does this drug work? Cancerous tumors are characterized by cell division, which is no longer controlled as it is in normal tissues. Normal cells stop dividing when they come into contact with like cells, a mechanism known as contact inhibition. There we go. Cancerous cells lose this ability. Cancer cells no longer have the normal checks and balances in place that control and limit cell division. The process of cell division in both normal and cancerous cells is through a cell cycle, and the cell cycle goes from the resting phase through active growing phase and then to mitosis or division. The ability of chemotherapy to kill cancer cells depends on its ability to halt cell division. Usually the drugs work by damaging the RNA or the DNA that tells the cell how to copy itself in division. If the cells are unable to divide, they die. The faster the cells are dividing, the more likely it is that chemo will kill the cells, causing the tumor to shrink. They will also induce cell suicide or self-death. Chemotherapy drugs that affect cells only when they are dividing are called cell cycle specific. Chemotherapy drugs that affect cells when they are at rest are called cell cycle non-specific. The scheduling of chemotherapy is based on the type of cells, rate at which they divide, and the time in which the given drug is likely to be effective. This is why chemotherapy is typically given in cycles. Unfortunately, chemotherapy does not know the difference between cancerous cells and normal cells. Chemotherapy will kill all cells that are rapidly dividing. The normal cells will grow back healthy, but in the meantime, side effects occur, and the normal cells are most commonly affected by chemotherapy are blood cells, cells in the mouth, the stomach, the bowel, hair follicles, and resulting low blood counts, mouth sores, nausea, diarrhea, and hair loss. Different drugs may affect different parts of the body. So adriamycin, or the red devil, is classified as an anti-tumor antibiotic. Anti-tumor antibiotics are made from natural products produced by species of the soil fungus, and it gives the name, and I'm not going to even attempt to say the name. These drugs act like multiple phases of the cell cycle and are considered cell cycle specific. There are several types of anti-tumor antibiotics. So basically what it's saying is it did an overview of chemotherapy, but the two drugs that it was on they were designed to halt completely the cell division of the cancer cells and to cause the cancer cells to die. The next drug that I was on was Cytoxin. That's, the same drug at the same time. And Cytoxin, I didn't think was going to be super horrible, but it has some pretty crazy side effects that I wasn't very happy about. And so it also has low blood counts, hair loss, nausea, vomiting, poor appetite, discoloration of the skin, which I did experience. All of these I experienced. Loss of fertility, diarrhea, mouth sores, and bladder irritation or bleeding. Oh, that's what was going on. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I also would like for them to add degrees to diarrhea. That would be really nice because I've had diarrhea and then I have had chemo diarrhea. This is the body part stuff that I'm about to, or not body part, but the bodily fluids I'm about to start talking about, because that was embarrassing, but at the same time, fascinating. It's crazy. So this type of chemotherapy is an anti-neoplastic drug. And let's see, I'm like, do I really want to read this whole thing again? Because a lot of it's the same stuff. All right, so this is classified as, okay, well, it's classified as that, but it's classified as an alkylating agent. An alkylating, it's ALKYLATING. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, agent. And they are most active in resting phase of the cell. And these drugs are cell cycle non-specific. And there are several types of these types of agents. So I was on a cell specific and a cell non-specific drug. So if that means anything to you all, go with that information. I know that they were designed to stop my cancer growth and to reduce my cancer, to kill the cancer within me. I experienced most every single side effect. I had my very first chemo treatment, and I was doing okay because they have you take steroids for 3 days afterwards. So I'm on steroids for 4 days total, and you need them. I'm not a huge fan of them, but you need them just so your body can get through you need that chemo to work in those days, so that way your body's ready and can do it. If your body's not ramped up like the steroids do for you, I don't know that you can make it through those days, because that's probably super harsh. By day 3, I could feel my tumor reducing. And that's a big deal, because if you watch some of the other videos, you know that I could feel my tumor growing before I even started. And that really kind of freaked me out, which is why I pushed to start chemotherapy as quickly as possible. And then all of my cancer symptoms that I was started to have right before chemo stopped completely. So that was good. So I at least knew that it was working. I thought I was a little crazy, so I texted a nurse friend of mine who is an oncology nurse, and she was like, that's amazing. She goes, I figured that would happen, but I didn't want to say anything to you to give you false hope. The next week, I went to see my doctor. He did a check, and he said, yeah. He said it's shrinking. And I'm like, woohoo, it's working. But I had to get through a period of where, like, that first week, I seriously felt like I was dying as soon as those steroids wore off, because the symptoms hit me Saturday. So I had chemo on Wednesday. So the symptoms hit me, no, sorry, they didn't really fully hit until that Monday. They started that Sunday afternoon. And that was horrible. Because that night, I got to the point where my body was shaking so bad, and I literally couldn't get up out of bed. Actually, I was on the couch, and I couldn't get up off the couch. I went ahead and took some medication to help, and it helped just enough to get me back into the bed and continue shivering and shaking uncontrollably, and the muscle aches and the nausea, and was so rough. If you've had mono, and if you've had the flu, I'm talking about the real flu that like late knocks you on your tail, not the flu that, oh, I have the flu, and you're walking around in the grocery store. You don't have the flu. I'm talking about the real flu. If you've had the real flu and if you had mono, what I was experiencing was worse than that. It was by far the worst thing I've ever experienced. I literally felt like I was dying. I knew I wasn't dying. I knew it was the chemotherapy, and I also knew it was working. But that was when I realized that sometimes you need the medicine to help you get through. So I got a little bit more proactive about staying on top of my pain meds and keeping it on a 6-hour cycle. My pain meds were Tylenol. So it wasn't anything prescription wise. And I stayed on top of my nausea medicine. They gave me Phenergan and Zofran. Phenergan's supposed to make you sleepy. It does not make me sleepy, but it knocks out the nausea for a little while. And so I did Phenergan instead of the Zofran, didn't even touch the nausea, not at all, nothing. I know it works for some people, it did not work for me. So that first week after chemo was really, really rough. It took a lot out of me. I was exhausted, and I experienced those bad days. There were about three full days of really, really rough symptoms. So it was 3 days of super, super bad symptoms. But it was a full week of just feeling rough. By the second week, I could feel my body start rebounding. I was still exhausted, still couldn't do much of anything. My husband will laugh at that when I say that, because the following, not the first Sunday after chemo treatment, but the following Sunday, I rearranged our house by myself. So he'll laugh when I say that I couldn't do much, but I was able to do that. I did take a lot of breaks, but I was able to do that, and that made laying on the couch all summer long a little bit more palpable, because then I wouldn't have to look at these unfinished projects, because I knew what was coming for the next little bit, next 2 months of my life. And so that next week I could do a few more things. And by the end of that round, the day before my next round of chemo, I was doing so good that I was able to help butcher our chickens. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to butcher our chickens, and I was able to do that. So I was really excited that I had enough energy to do that. I was done afterwards, but I'm like, hey, I could do it. And so I did that. That was rough. I also want to say a side effect of Cytoxan is diarrhea. And like I said, I wish that they had varying degrees of diarrhea, because I've had diarrhea after I've eaten something that didn't agree with my stomach, and then I've had chemo diarrhea, and it was insanely painful. You could feel it moving through your stomach, and that is one of the weirdest, most painful feelings that I felt in my stomach. Keep in mind, chemotherapy is killing rapidly reproducing cells. Your gut is also rapidly reproducing cells, so it's killing your gut cells. And at one point in time, and I did this every single cycle, my diarrhea would no longer be just solid-ish stuff. It came out liquid, as literally urinating out my butthole. And then it got to the point that liquid was clear. I mean, your bowels shouldn't be reproducing clear liquid, but it was clear liquid. The toilet bowl was clear, and that stuff came out of my rear end. The weirdest thing in the entire world. And so I'm like, okay, and I did not look forward to that part, because it happened to me right as I was starting to feel better. All that chemo is trying to come out of your body, and it's coming out any way that it possibly can. The hot flashes were insane. I would literally be sitting here, and then all of a sudden I would be sweating. And I'm not talking like just glistening. I'm talking like literally pouring sweat out of my body. And most of that happened when I was sleeping. And I would feel like I got out of bed, jumped into the swimming pool, and got back into my bed. That's how much was coming out of me. And it smells, guys. It does not smell pleasant. It's chemical mixed with body odor. It's gross. And so that's not just Cytoxan, that's those two drugs themselves. But I was able to isolate the diarrhea to Cytoxan, because I had a nurse go, do you have really bad diarrhea? And I said, yeah. She goes, a lot of people complain about that with Cytoxan. I'm like, ding, there we go. It's not just the two drugs, it's that one drug that is causing the diarrhea. I'm sure the red devil wasn't helping at all, because it is the devil after all. So we did, so that I was able to figure out my schedule. By the second round, I was able to figure out like what are my bad days, and we could plan for those. The meals that we were given, we saved them for those days because I didn't even have enough energy to tell my kids to do anything. I could not lift my head up off of the bed for 3 days. And that's hard, going from a fully capable person to not being able to do that whatsoever, because we were just thrown into this very quickly. And never mind that all of this stress induced a flare up on my husband's part. So he was incapacitated, and that was hard for him because he felt like he needed to be the one taking care of me. Thankfully, we eliminated all of our stressors, so that way he and I could both rest all summer long. Also, in a weird way, I'm kind of thankful for all the shutdowns, because that made us not feel guilty for not being at other places, or saying no to invites or things like that. I'm thankful for the grocery pickup, because that was something that was, while it's not my most ideal, I still prefer to get my own groceries. I like to pick out my own produce. It was really nice to be able to just click, go pick it up and bring it back. I did not drive during these chemo treatments because I did not feel like I was a safe driver, because my reaction time was very slow. My brain processing time was very slow. I could not process. If somebody was talking to me and giving me a lot of information, I could not process what they were saying. There was a lot of word searching. It's called chemo brain, and it's a very real thing. Thankfully, I didn't forget too much. I did try to make sure that I kept notes. We simplified life so we didn't forget things. I put things on the calendar to make sure that I was following the calendar. There's an app that our clinic uses to help you keep up with appointments and things like that. And so that was really good to have. But I made it through the 4 rounds. I didn't think I was going to. Round 3, I had a lot of anxiety going into, because of the side effects and knowing that I was going to have to live through feeling like I was dying again. And it really, really wears on you after a while. I was physically and mentally exhausted. I was spiritually in a better place than I've ever been in my entire life. So that was a plus to all of this. But mentally trying to go, okay, I'm just now getting back up and I'm about to get knocked on my tail again. And I likened it to, like, you see Rocky and he's like, oh, I'm going to get up. And then he gets knocked out, and, it takes him forever to get back up again. And every round got worse and worse and worse. And I was very emotional going into my 3rd round. I didn't want to do it. I could smell the drug. I was already getting sick. I was already starting to panic. When I got into the chemo chair and the nurse came around with the drugs, I saw the bag of red fluid, and I literally almost had a panic attack in that moment. I could feel my breathing just ramping up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so I'm like, I'm struggling here. And so I'm like, and then those sweet nurses, there were a couple of them, came around and they were like, you can do this. After today, you have 1 more of this, and you can do this. You can get through this. And they are the sweetest people. And I loved them so much because of how encouraging they were during all of this for me, and still are. They cheer with you. It's great. And so I got through round 3. I lived through those symptoms. But I also had to meet with my doctor, because those 2 drugs put me in severe anemic status. Actually, no, I take that back. I found that out after round 4. I may be wrong. Somewhere around that time period. I thought that maybe I was borderline, that I was reading and too much into my lab work. I know how to read lab work for the most part, but they went in and they check They check your iron levels because of some things on my labs that were showing up weird. They check my iron levels, my vitamin D3 levels. They check there's other little things that they're checking for, liver function, kidney function, stuff like that, because it will mess with those organs. So that's why they did that. Mine showed me to be severely anemic. The cutoff number is 7. I was 7.2. They talked about doing iron infusions, and I did not want to do iron infusions at all. I just didn't want to add to what I was already having to do. My vitamin D plummeted. So I took a vitamin D supplement to keep that up. I also made sure that I got outside a little bit more to get vitamin D, despite the fact that my skin is sensitive to the sunlight. But when I got some of the lab work and I looked at it, and I discussed this with the doctor in my next visit, and this is when he was discussing with me that if it drops anymore, then they have to do the iron infusions. And I said, that's fine if it drops. But what I could tell from my lab work is that I had too much iron in my body, but it wasn't being absorbed. So it wasn't that I wasn't getting enough iron. It was that my body couldn't process the iron, and that was making me severely anemic. So what that was telling me is knowing enough about gut health, and that my gut cells are being destroyed. That means my gut is being destroyed, which means that I can't absorb what I'm trying to put into my body. All those side effects totally showed me how destroyed my gut was. So I told the doctor, I said, this is what I want to do. And before I say yes to an iron infusion. And I said, I want to work on my gut health. So I did. I ramped up things to use to improve my gut. I added fermented foods to all my meals. I started making kefir. You can call it kefir. There's all sorts of ways. I'm in the South, so let's call it kefir. So I do milk kefir every day. And that's one of the most powerful things that you can do. It's also anti-cancer. Like it helps to kill cancer cells, so yay. And then I got a really good probiotic. I started taking that. And I added things like sauerkraut and other fermented foods to my diet to help build. But I had to do it like, it's not just like a normal person adding fermented foods to their diet. I had to like really get in there and add stuff so that way my body, because as rapidly as those cells were being killed off, I needed to put the good bacteria in. And the doctor said, he goes, that makes complete sense. So let's try it. And he said, but if you drop any more, we have to do the infusions. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I will submit to that. And, but he didn't give me a choice on the vitamin D3. He's like, you got to have it. So I'm like, okay. Cause I'm also a big believer in being able to get that naturally, because I think that you can, by doing just a few simple things. However, again, my gut's being destroyed. I can't absorb nutrients like a normal person can. And I know this because I've studied gut health for my husband for the past 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with gut health and how your body absorbs nutrients. So that being said, I am still anemic. However, my numbers that they look at every week to determine that keep going up. Very little, but it keeps going up. And the doctor is very happy about that. And so nothing's dropped at all. It keeps going. I'm still on chemo. It's not going to get to normal for quite a while. And I'm okay with that, but I'm not dropping anymore. And, you know, honestly, guys, and this is what I wasn't tracking them, because I do have a mistrust of doctors. We have been sorely abused by doctors before. The kids, me, and my husband have all had really bad experiences with doctors. And so there is a mistrust on my part for that. But my doctor, by suggesting the iron infusion, wasn't just suggesting another thing for me to take. or to fill his pockets. He was literally trying to save my life. If my levels dropped anymore, I went to life-threatening anemia, and that's not good. We don't want to be there. One of the drugs that you don't always hear about with chemotherapy is when you have drugs that are going to drop your blood cells, your white blood cells in particular, which mine fluctuated quite a lot. They do this drug, and I'm sure you've heard commercials for it, but it's Neulasta. Neulasta is nasty. I'm just gonna say. That was the little dot thing that I had on my arm when my head shaving video. That I haven't had to have this in almost 3 months on my arm, but I can still feel it. That's how traumatic that drug is on me. It is horrible, absolutely horrible. I appreciate it for what the drug did, because it made your white blood cells come up, and that's where bone pain comes in to play, because it's activating all that bone marrow inside and trying to get your white blood cells to come up. That's recommended to take Claritin while you're going through these treatments, because it helps with bone pain. Okay, sure, it helps a little bit. I'm just gonna say it's not a cure-all pill. I'd rather take it than not take it. I will tell you that. But the Neulasta, when it goes in, made me super, super nauseous. I had to sit up straight sit up. I could not lay down, and that did not help the nausea at all. But it made me very, very nauseous, and then the bone pain was almost unbearable from it, even with the Claritin. I can't imagine what it would have been like without taking Claritin. So that was super fun. I think I was probably more excited about the Neulasta being over than I was about the chemo itself being over. Finishing up the first part of the chemo, the AC part of the chemo, was a sigh of relief, because with the next round, I was promised to get some life back, and I did. I got some life back with the next drug. But I also knew that because it's the longest stint that I was going to be on, it was going to be 12 infusions every week. And that wears on you after a while, going to the doctor every single week. And, it's long. It's a long process. At the time, I couldn't even fathom being at the end of it. So I knew that it was probably going to be playing more of a mental game than physical game, and it did. It proved to be more mental for me. It challenged me in a lot of ways, because I got really excited about being able to do certain things, and then I would basically kind of come to a halt, because those types of things became more and more difficult as time went on. So Taxol has its own set of side effects. Like I said, I didn't have any nausea on this. I do have fatigue. That's just normal. I mean, I'm sorry, your body is trying to live through being poisoned. So Taxol for me was given 12 times for every week. They used to give it less frequently, but at a higher dosage, and they found that it's more effective to do it this way, and plus the side effects aren't as bad. So these are the side effects to Taxol. Low blood counts, hair loss, muscle and joint pain. Platelets can temporarily decrease, so that's a part of your blood thing, white red blood cells. Anemia or bleeding, neuropathy, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, mouth sores, and hypersensitivity, facial flushing, chills, shortness of breath, hives, things like that. Although this is more not the chemo, this is more steroids exiting out my body, because I did the same thing with the last one, the last two drugs. Swelling of your ankles and your feet. Ding. Then let's see, low blood pressure, which my blood pressure has been pretty spot on, except for one time, and it was sky high for me. Darkening of the skin, if you have had radiation before, which that didn't have, and then nail changes. That one's not fun. Can you see this? I don't think you can see this very good. Well, let's see. Let's show this one. This is really... So where that white is where my nails have separated from my skin. I have 1, 2, 3. This one has not. 4, 5. So I have 5 nails. I did have 6 nails, but this has since grown out, that are trying to separate from my skin. Some women lose their nails completely. I have been able to keep mine hanging on. They are starting my nails now that the other 2 drugs are getting out of my system, because they say it takes about 2 months for chemo to get out of your system. Now that those other 2 drugs are out and I only really have Taxol in my system, I'm noticing my hair's growing back. My nails are starting to grow more. You know, those are rapidly reproducing cells. So as the stuff that's killing them off is doing better, or not killing them off so much, you know, these guys are starting to grow. So I'm hoping that by Christmas time, I can actually use my hands again, because the nails are, makes it really hard to open things. I can't submerge my hands in water, because that increases the chances of the nails coming off. I can't, just a lot of little things that you can't do. So that's been something very challenging. It's not a major issue, but it's challenging, and it can mess with you mentally, especially when you work with your hands a lot. I did start having neuropathy in my hands and my feet. And so week 6, I bought some stuff for cold therapy. And it's basically, I stick my hands and my feet in these ice bags while I'm getting treatment. And during that, what it's doing is it's helping with the neuropathy that you could potentially get with treatment. If you're going to go through Taxol, I recommend just going ahead and doing it anyways. It's a small investment to make, and I will put all of that, all these little things that I used, I'll put that in the description. But it's worth it, because after the very first treatment, I got all the feeling back in my hands. I did not realize how much I lost until I got it back. The majority of the feeling came back in my feet. However, my toes are numb, and that's a very weird sensation. So, oh, and I also have 1 toenail that's trying to come off. So far, I've been able to save it. I'm super impressed by that, to be honest, because I was certain that was coming off. I'm trying to go through, because there's a lot of lists on a lot of side effects on here. The joint pain is going, and the muscle aches will hit me tomorrow night, and it sucks, and it stays all through Wednesday when I get treatment again. I used to only have 1 or 2 days of those days, but the more you have Taxol, the more you feel the side effects. The tireder you get, the less good days you have, all of that kind of stuff. It just builds on itself. It's still doing what it needs to be doing. So the exhaustion, the fatigue, the pain is all to be expected. And so it is what it is. Still nowhere near compared to the AC stuff. That was horrible. I did not experience any mouth sores at all with this one. No vomiting, no nausea. Obviously hair's still gone, but some of it's growing back. Definitely the swelling of the feet and the ankles. That's super annoying. The water retention is very annoying. Very, 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 very annoying. I hate it, and I'm ready for it to be gone. Another thing is bloating. Bloating was really, really bad at one point, and painful too. And I hadn't really experienced painful bloating before, and it was really painful. I basically walk around looking like I'm 6 months pregnant. Again, it is what it is. My blood counts, my white blood cells are still lower than normal. again, to be expected, but not life-threatening. Red blood cells are still low, still anemic. Both of these drugs were supposed to put me in a state of menopause, and I expected that to happen immediately. However, I did have 2 periods with the first 2 drugs, and I did talk to the doctor about it a little bit. And he's like, you know what? It's not common, but it's not rare either. So we're not going to worry about that. He said the only time he would worry about it is if I was actually passing clots. And I never got to that point, so didn't worry about it. And then the hair loss is for both of those cycles of drugs is something that's been going on. I did not lose my eyebrows completely. And, we all knew that I was worried about that because I like my eyebrows. I would love for them to be thicker, but whatever. Leg hair is growing back. Some of my arm hair is growing back, all completely white. My armpit hair is not growing back. If I never had to shave my armpits again, I would be a super happy person. I do, because I have a very hairy heritage. So, we shave. And then nose hair. I didn't realize the value of nose hair until I had none. Walked around with Kleenex a lot, because your snot just drips. There's nothing to catch it. There's nothing to turn it into boogers, so it was coming out. So hair growing back in your nostrils is a very unique experience as well, because the hair that's growing back is way up here. So all your boogers get stuck way up here, right by your bones. That makes for some interesting experiences, trying to get them out. That can be really difficult. I don't have nails, so I can't just take some Kleenex and try to dig them out. That doesn't work very well because my nails will want to separate from my skin, and I'm trying not to do that. I can blow my nose, and that helps sometimes, but sometimes you get those hard ones, and they just kind of stick around, and it's just difficult. It's most all the side effects to Taxol aren't anything you can't live through. It's just all these little annoying ones, and it just adds up, and all those little annoying things just nagging on you, and knowing that you have them for 3 months and you're gonna get the same ones every week, that wears on you more so. So Taxol's a mental game for me more than a physical game, where the adriamycin and the Cytoxin was more physical. This one was more of a mental game, and I don't handle those as well as physical things. But again, it is what it is. The drug's working, and I have 1 more, and I just have to get through 1 more week of symptoms, and I know that after that I will start regaining strength, and for that I'm super thankful. I think that's it as far as what all of these drugs did to me. And it doesn't mean that for you, if you have to use these drugs, that these are going to happen for you. It could be very different. And overall, listening and reading other women's stories of how they handled these drugs, I did do what the doctors expected me to do, to quote unquote, in doctor speak, sail through chemotherapy. I remember after the first thing, I'm like, she said it was gonna be so easy. And it was not at all. So even if you're like me and you're healthy and young, and the doctors are like, you're gonna be fine, it's still gonna knock you on your tail. And that's okay, because it's supposed to, guys. It's supposed to. It's rough. Cancer treatments are rough no matter what. So now that I have just 1 more treatment left, what's the next step? Because chemo, while I'm going to be celebrating that it's done, is not the end of this journey for me. The next step for me is surgery. So I am not a candidate to save any breast tissue on my left side whatsoever. All of it's tainted with cancer. Even if chemotherapy worked and killed all the cancer cells, to keep this is just not possible, because those cancer cells, again, being aggressive and rapidly reproducing, will probably come back within a year. So I'm not a candidate to save it. So I will be having, I have to remove this breast. So that I knew, and I did a lot of research, and I was planning on, I walked into my surgery appointment with my surgeon, which was last week, and had a little bit of anxiety about that one, because I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do based off of the knowledge that I had. And my plan, I walked in there not wanting to reconstruct. A lot of people aren't going to fully understand that, but I'm not shutting off the possibility of reconstructing later. But I don't want to reconstruct now. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't want to do it. So I'm not reconstructing. That I am continuing to not do. There's options I have. I do not want implants. I do not want something fake in my body. A lot of women have had major problems, the infections, not being happy with them, being hard, the loss of sensation, all of that stuff. I don't want it. Do not want that. I don't want them recalled. I don't want to have to get them refilled. I'm a small chested woman anyways. It's not that big of a deal for me at all. For those that choose it, that's fine, because we're all very individual. And if you need that for you, then do that for you. There's also another one where you can fat graft, or you can do these flap transfers where it transfers your own tissue. That's the only type of reconstruction that I will consider. However, the more I'm going along, I'm just not really into that one right now either. I just want cancer to be over and done with, and let me heal before I make those decisions. But that comes with like several surgeries in a row just to get it. And the recovery time is horrible. And the best treatment facilities aren't in this area. And so I would have to travel and make plans for that. And there's just a whole lot of things. So like I said, just don't want to reconstruct. It is an option. And a lot of women don't realize that, because I think they get pressured into reconstruction when people feel like you're less than a woman because you don't have breast. My breasts don't make me not a woman. So, I mean, I'm a woman, and I will always be a woman no matter what. So my hair going away, my reproductive system being shut down, my breast being gone, those are not the things that define me as a woman. And, but if you want those things, that's up to you. For me, that's not where my self-worth comes from. There will be mourning for my breast being gone. That I know. Surgery is traumatic, and losing an organ. And I kind of wish that we would stop putting pretty words with things, because this is a traumatic experience. And my breast, the mastectomy, which is the pretty word here, my breast is literally being amputated from my body. This is what we need to call it, because this is a big deal. It's not, oh, you get a free boob job. That's not what it is, because that comes with its own set of problems. Your breasts never look the same. You've lost sensation there because they can't recreate that. And then you have a lot of issues, health issues back. And guess what, guys? You can still get breast cancer coming back from that area. So, it's not a free boob job. Let's stop calling it that. It's not a pretty word. It is literally a breast amputation, and that's what we really need to start calling it. So that way we can the rest of the world can see the trauma that goes into this kind of stuff. The second thing that I walked into my surgery appointment was that I wanted both breasts removed, because I did not want to risk it spreading to this breast. And I did not want And I just kind of wanted symmetry. So that's what I walked in there knowing. I walked out of there knowing I still didn't want to reconstruct. And after the doctor talked to me for a while, she agreed with me that it was the best course of action for me. Not all women it's that way for. I was well read on not reconstructing, so I knew what I was talking about. But I walked out of there not planning on removing my healthy breast. Both my surgeon and my oncologist. Now, I have a few questions to ask my oncologist before I make my final decision. But I will be keeping, the plan is for me to be keeping my right breast. Why? Because it's a completely healthy breast. I responded really well to the chemo. And I think if I hadn't, then I would think differently. And what I was explained by the surgeon is that, and I said, I just don't want the cancer to come back. And she said, if it came back, it would come back here. It will come back in my chest wall, in my lymph nodes, in another organ at that point in time. If I got cancer here, it would be a completely different type of breast cancer. It may be the same kind, but it will not be the same type. It did not spread over here because these are two different organs of your body, and it did not spread this way. And so there's no reason, and they said there's no scientific evidence whatsoever, take that for what you want, that this removing the healthy breast will do anything to prevent cancer from coming back. So I'm like, okay, maybe there is a reason. Also, when it comes time for surgery, recovery time is easier and better with just removing this one as opposed to this one, less infection risk, all that other kind of stuff going on. My husband asked when we needed to decide, and she said that she will block off a full mastectomy, a double mastectomy, a double breast amputation, right? For that time period. And I have until that morning to decide what I want to do. So she has given me a very long period of time to think about it. She is supportive of what I wanted to do because she did tell me, she said, you only have about a 3% chance of cancer reoccurring. And I looked at her and I said, yes, but I have a less than 1% chance of ever having breast cancer in the first place. And she said, fair, very fair. And then that's when she kind of changed her tune. She said, all right, if you want a double mastectomy, she goes, I understand the reasons. So if you want to do that, I will support you, and you don't have to make that decision right away. My surgery is scheduled for the week before Thanksgiving. So that's how long I have to think about this. I have pretty much made up my mind on keeping the healthy breast tissue because I was able to find a Facebook group. I did just join a few Facebook groups for breast cancer. Some of them I will unjoin here very soon because there's a lot of junk and you have to kind of weed through the junk. And I think I got all the information that I needed for me out of those groups. But one I joined when I came back from that appointment was a group for women who only had the single mastectomy and kept their other breast, the healthy breast. And I got on there and I explained what type of cancer I had and what I was thinking and what options are available to me and stuff like that. And every single female said they do not regret keeping their breast, their healthy breast. So I'm like, okay. And then the overall positivity and mental well-being among these women is not like any other group. They don't mind. Like, there's prosthetics that I could wear if I wanted to, if it made me uncomfortable. They show bras that are really good for women who have just one breast. A lot of the women who are small chested, you can't even really tell in clothing. My girls were like, Mom, you wear baggy clothes anyways, who cares? I think really kind of the only thing about being sad about not taking both breasts was the fact that I would still have to wear a bra probably. And I was kind of looking forward to not wearing a bra, to be honest. But you still have sensation in this side of your breast, whereas you're not going to necessarily have it over here in this side. And then things that the women pointed out that I didn't know about was scans and detection and early detection. And they all reiterated what the doctor had said about cancer not jumping over and it being a completely different type of cancer. And if it did come back, it would come back on this side, but it would come back differently because there was no breast tissue there. And they talked about the recovery time and all of that kind of stuff. And so they all said the same thing that the doctor said. So that made me feel better. And I do trust my doctors. My surgeon and my oncologist are top notch. They were handpicked for me by a friend, my nurse oncology friend, and I love these doctors. I do trust them 100% that they have my best interest in mind and not their pocketbooks. And so but anyways, the other thing about keeping this breast that I didn't realize with the other, if I had a double mastectomy, I won't have any more mammograms, and most of the women, and I won't have any more MRIs. Most of the women who have, then that question's been asked on the one that had the double mastectomy, and they went completely flat. They have no scans, and the only time they ever have a scan is if they feel something and the doctor feels necessary or feels like the scan is necessary, or if their blood work shows something a little funky, then a doctor will order a scan. If I keep the healthy breast, I will have a mammogram once a year, and then 6 months after that, I will have an MRI, and that will be on a rotation. And every 6 months, I am getting scanned for possible cancers. And in an MRI, cancers are going to light up. So, and that's just sound waves. So that's not anything that's detrimental to my body. I'm not super comfortable about having a mammogram on a yearly basis because of the radioactivity. However, this is what I will say about that, is having the mammogram is the lesser of evils. I would rather have a mammogram and to detect cancer early than to not have one at all, and get cancer when it's too late or it's already metastasized to the rest of my body. So I thought that I would have more peace of mind removing both breasts, but for my situation, I believe that I will have more peace of mind saving my healthy breast than having it removed, because I will be scanned more frequently and I will be able to have those, there's just peace of mind in knowing that, that I'm going to be looked after on a regular basis, and that makes me feel better. And that's going to help me not to live in so much fear or to live in a food prison, supplement prison, things like that. So those are things that for me is what is going to help me live a better life on the other side of this. Keep in mind, I do not have the gene mutation. If I had the gene mutation, I guarantee you I would be taking both breasts, no ifs, ands, or buts. And the doctors would be 100% supportive of that, because that would be the recommended protocol for me. If I had all the risk factors, if I had a family history also. But because I don't have a family history of it, because I do not have the gene mutation, and because I do not meet any of the risk factors, there is no medical reason to take the healthy breast tissue. And I do have a couple of questions specifically about the scanning and the protocols hereafter of what they will do with my oncologist and I'll talk to him next week before I make my final decision. But I am 99% sure that I will be keeping the healthy breast tissue or healthy breast. And that is specifically a health reasoning. They call them uniboobers and unicorns, just so you know. So those women that have one healthy breast tissue and then they choose to not, that's what they do. And they have a very good sense of humor about it. And we all know that our family has a pretty decent sense of humor about cancer in general. So I'm sure we'll be making fun of myself, or I'm sure my husband will be making side remarks and I'll be laughing along with him because he's the better person when it comes to making jokes than I am. I can get him every now and then. All right, I think that's all I wanted to say and all I needed to say. Thank you all for watching this. I'm sure this is gonna be like an hour long because I've been sitting here for quite a while and talking. 3 hours? I don't think it's...
One when you started.
It was not one when I started.
2?
It's like 2:30, maybe 2 hours long. I'll probably edit it down just a little bit. But I wanted to put out a lot of this information, and I do appreciate those that sat until the end to watch this. And I did this specifically for women who were like me, looking for someone else that was just like them, because we are rare, but we are increasing. So women, just because you're under 40 and you have no family history and you have no genetic mutations and you do not meet the risk factors, it does not mean that you are immune to cancer. And that's not to scare you, but it's to put a reality check. Just don't think that it's not possible, because it is possible. If you feel something is not right, get to your doctor, talk to your doctor and be like, we got to do something about this. And if they aren't willing to, then find another doctor, because ultimately in the end, you know your body best. And so be proactive, because your life expectancy at this point with breast cancer, if you catch it early, is a very good life expectancy. And it's not like it was, 10, 20 years ago when it was essentially a death sentence. It's not anymore. So get tested if you feel like you need to. But we are increasing those of us that don't meet the qualifications for breast cancer. And again, thank you all for watching this long. I thoroughly appreciate it. I almost forgot that I promised I would show you what my lump looks like. And it's on a sticker in our garage. Ooh, I do need to turn on some lights. But if you live in the Memphis area and you are familiar with the sports store Outdoors Inc., you're gonna find this humorous. I don't know if Outdoors Inc. is in other places, but I know it's here. So this right here is what my tumor looked like, only this tail went out like here. So yeah, I mean, it had this. Now it didn't have the eyes and the mouth, but it had this little lump here. This was the big part of this. This area right here was 2.9 centimeters, plus this tail and plus that head. So you're welcome, because you will never look at this the same way again, because I don't at all. I remember after being coming out of my biopsy and seeing all of this on the ultrasound machine and seeing the funky shape, and then we drove down Germantown Parkway and there was Outdoors Inc. And I looked and I go, that's what my tumor looks like. What the heck? Because I knew when I was in the biopsy, I'm like, I've seen that shape before. That's shape so familiar to me. Well, yep. This, now it's no longer there because the chemo worked the way it was supposed to. But yeah, that's exactly what my tumor looked like, only the tail went out this way. The tail is what was in my muscle tissue. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching again. Bye.